start with that recording. I want to welcome everybody that might have just joined us during praise and worship. Maybe you just joined us online. Thank you for being here with us today. Shabbat Shalom. We are glad that you are with us. Today is the 27th day of the month of December. It is the last Shabbat in the year 2025. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit in the sermon today. We don't need to be like the rest of the world. Can I get an amen? Amen. The rest of the world, year after year after year on this last Shabbat, on this last week, in this last month of the year, here's what the rest of the world's saying. Whew, glad this year's over. Man, it's been a bad year. Hope next year is better. And then guess what? No matter what happens to them the next year, 12 months later, they're singing the same old song. Oh, it's been a bad year. I can't wait for this year to be. No matter, it's repeat. That's that negative attitude. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to talk about how to walk in victory. Amen? Today is the 7th day of a new Hebrew month, Tevet, in the year 5786. How many of you saw the new moon this week? It's been about 7 days ago now. Did you see the new moon? Beautiful, wasn't it? The title of today's sermon, again, we're going to have the Torah service first, sermon to follow. The title of today's sermon is Joseph's Deeply Rooted Faith. Look at that image. Isn't that beautiful? Look at those roots. That's what it takes to stand in a storm. You got to be deeply rooted. That tree, it's not going anywhere. Those roots spread out farther than the tree itself. That's how we have to be. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. So this week's announcements. Don't forget that next Shabbat, this is vitally important. Next Shabbat, January 3rd, we are not, I emphasize, we are not having oneg. So next Shabbat, don't bring any food with you. I'm going to ask all of you to try to get out the door as quickly as possible. I know you like to fellowship and so forth, but please don't have me come up and ask you to leave. I don't want to ask anybody to leave. So respectfully, after service next week, say Shabbat Shalom, hug, whatever. Maybe grab a bag of trash and take it out or something. But we've got to go to the conference. We've got to hit the road as quickly as we can, and you don't want to make your rabbi late, right? Getting down the road. Amen? So please help us in that regard next week. No oneg. But hey, still come to service, guys. Don't just say, oh, there's no food, I'm not coming. No, that's not why you come anyways, right? Remember the question we asked earlier? Amen? Yeah, I'm feeding you spiritual food. You need to come and get that. So make sure and be here next week. Speaking of the conference, be in prayer. Myself and Terry, we're going to the IMCS. That is the International Alliance of Messianic Congregations and Synagogues, in which we belong to that organization. It is the largest Messianic organization group in the world. It is also the oldest. We have, at one point in time, we had about 250 congregations in our organization. Spirit-filled, you see the flame in the A? That's why they have that. Spirit-filled organization. This conference, it's the 42nd annual. I mean, it's been going on for years, right? This is not something new. And actually, the organization is even older than that, really starting in 1912. It's going to be held January 4th through the 7th. So we are having a Shabbat service every week. Okay? So on the 10th, we're still having a Shabbat service. Be here with us. Don't miss out on that. There's the title, Many Signs and Wonders. Whoa, that sounds exciting, doesn't it? I can't wait to hear what they have to say. Don't forget we have a nursery in the back. You might see some new signs. Nobody should get lost. You're supposed to laugh. That was a, we're a small facility anyways. You're not going to get lost. But baby nursery's in the back if anybody needs it. And of course, our classroom, our educational room is back here. We'll have Shabbat school. We'll have Shabbat school in our educational room coming up after the Torah service. Tithes and offerings, the offering box is over here. We moved it. If you've not been here recently, we've moved the tithe box. It's over here beside of the doors that go into the kitchen. Anytime, your own free will and accord, go and put in your tithes. You know, that's a great thing to do right before communion, right? Or it's good to do before, when you bring your food in the mornings. But don't forget about that. And I said this last week. I'm going to say it again. If it's the end of the year, it's December, if you are considering giving a tax-free, a tax-deductible donation to an organization to help offset your taxes at the end of the year, please consider the olive tree, okay? I said this last week. I'm uncomfortable with saying this because you know how I am. The olive tree is good. We're in good shape. We've got plenty of funds, plenty of money. But this year we had to go above and beyond our budget because we had to replace a lot of technology. How many of you know that gets expensive? Right? Amen? So we blew up the budget this year because of all this technology. Computers, cameras, I mean, you name it. Well, we're 13 years old. You know, it's about time, right? Amen? So we're going to be in the red in the budget this year. But again, we've been in the black so much, we're in good shape. But why am I telling you that? Because maybe some of you, God's given you a blessing and a big gift, and He intends for you to give to somebody else, such as the olive tree. And if I don't mention it, guess what I'm doing? I'm preventing you from giving it maybe to your own congregation. You follow me? Amen? What is the Bible verse that I quoted last week? You don't have because you don't ask. You have not because you ask not. Amen? So I'm just putting it out there, letting you know what our congregation did this year. If the Lord lays anything on your heart. And if you need to give online, many of you do. We have people that give online. You heard me mention earlier the UK and the Philippines, right? We've had people give from there. Isn't that amazing? Wow. God is good. So PayPal's easy to use. All you have to do is grab your phone, scan this QR code. It'll take you to our PayPal page. If you need to, if you don't have a smartphone, you don't like QR codes, you can go to olivetreemessianic.org. You can click on the button. It will take you directly to our website. On our homepage, I have just about anything you could think of on our homepage. Try to make it easy for you so you don't have to search throughout our website, so you could easily get to our PayPal page there, including find all announcements and events and our social media sites. All the links to those, all you have to do is click on them. If you go to olivetreemessianic.org, and it will take you to all these social media sites. And if you have any of these, please, please, please share our content. I want to give Barbara and Scott praise. They are great. Fantastic on sharing our our content. And if everybody shared as much as they did, man, we would be reaching lots of people. Let's say all of you have Facebook and all of you have 500 friends, for example, and all of you shared today's sermon on Facebook. There's a possibility of your 500 friends seeing that. So let's say, how many of you is good with math? 50 times 500 is what? Somebody said, a lot. 50 times, huh? 25,000? That's how many possible people could be reached. If all of you who have Facebook, you have 500 friends, give or take. I say 500, that's not a lot actually. So, that's amazing. You might say, but I'm shy, I don't like doing that. I'm not asking you to go talk to anybody. I'm not asking you to knock on somebody's door. Amen? Just click share, and it's simple. It's done. It's time for our Torah service. We have some Spanish doors in the back. If you are watching this online, and I'm going to have the Spanish subtitles for you at the bottom of the screen coming up here in a few days. We don't have that, of course, right now. That's something we have to do after the fact. But if you speak Spanish, you don't understand English very well, come. We have a transmitter that we can put in your ear. We have a translator that will directly translate into your ear. and I put the subtitles at the bottom of the screen on all of these videos. We want to reach the world. We don't want language to be a barrier. Amen? Same with Russian. We have a young lady here from Ukraine. We can do the same thing. We could put that transmitter in your ear and we could translate to you. I could do the same thing with the subtitles on that as well, because I have signed up for an app that does that. So we want to reach a lost and dying world. Let us sing the Matovu. Sing with me. Matovu, O Haleha Yaakov, Mishkanoteka Yisrael, Va'ani barov hasdeka avoveteka ishtechavi alchecha kadshicha bayi rateka.
How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. O Lord, through your loving kindness I will enter your house. In awe I will bow down toward your holy sanctuary.
Amen. If you could turn her mic up just a hair, very, 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 very little. And the Amidah here, I'm going to give especially Terry a heads up on this with the drum. We don't have the Melech Hoser at the end this week. We've cut the Amidah a little bit short. Sing with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Hazadim Tovim V'chonei ha'akol, v'zoher hasdei avot, u'megiv gulel lifnei v'neihem, l'man shemo be'ahavav. And now in English we say,
Blessed are you, Lord our God, and God of our fathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, the great, mighty, and awesome God, the Most High God, who bestows loving kindness and creates all, who remembers the righteousness of the fathers, who in love brings a redeemer to their descendants for the sake of his name.
Amen. If you're not already, please rise. Let us face the east, face the direction in which Yeshua is coming to receive us, the direction in which he's going to come out of the skies. He's going to split the skies open and set foot on the Mount of Olives. Sing with me. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malkuto leholam vayed. Yeshua hu HaMashiach hu Adon HaKol.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom for all eternity. Yeshua, he is the Messiah, and he is Lord over all.
Amen. Let us now open the ark at this time. I want to ask Scott and Corey if they would come forward. As we just look at the scroll, we still have it dressed for Hanukkah. We still have our Hanukkah decorations out. While we're still in the month of December, folks. We just got through coming through the darkest time of the year as far as sunlight. Amen? So we're focusing on shining the light of Yeshua still through Hanukkah. Sing with me. Next slide. The Ein Kamocha. Ein Kamocha v'Elohim Adonai v'Ein Kama'asecha Malkutaka Malkut Kol Olamim Umemshataka B'Kol Dor V'Dor Adonai Melech Adonai Malach Adonai Yimloch Leolam V'Hayed Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain Adonai Yevorek Et Amo V'Shalom.
There is none like you among the gods, O Lord, and there is nothing like your works. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your dominion is throughout all generations. The Lord reigns, the Lord has reigned, the Lord will reign forever and ever. The Lord will give strength unto his people. The Lord will bless his people with peace.
Amen. Amen. Let us bring the scroll out now. Leighton, if you would come forward. Let's prepare ourselves for the Torah parade, the Torah processional. Grab your flags, grab your shofars, grab your tambourines, and let's praise and worship the Lord this morning. I'm going to use this blue mic in the back, so make sure it and the guitar is unmuted. Hallelujah. Go ahead, Scott.
Let God arise. Let God arise. Let God arise. Let God arise. Let his enemies be scattered, and let the righteous be glad. Yes, let them rejoice with gladness. God has triumphed mightily. Let God arise. Let God arise. Let God arise. Let God arise. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob. And the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. We will walk in his footsteps, and he will teach us his ways. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob, and to the house of the God of Jacob, and to the house of the God of Jacob. Baruch hu atah Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam vayed. Amen.
Bless the Lord, the Blessed One. Blessed is the
Lord, the Blessed One, for all eternity. Amen. This week's Torah portion, you can be seated, by the way. The scroll's down, you can be seated. This week's Torah portion is number 11, VaYigash. In English, it is translated, and he came near. Ozzy, if you want to go ahead and come forward and stand over here. Ozzy, translate that in Spanish there for us. Hold on. There's the proper mic.
La porción de la Torah para esta semana fue la Torah número 11, VaYigash, que significa y él se acercó.
Our Torah scriptures this week is Genesis chapter 44, verse 18 through 47, verse 27.
La porción de la Torah fue Génesis capítulo 44 del 18 al 47 y el verso 27.
Our Haftarah scriptures is Ezekiel 37, 15 through 28.
La porción Haftarah fue Ezequiel 37 del verso 15 al 28.
Our Brit Chadashah scriptures is Luke 6, 12 through 16 and Acts 7, 9 through 16.
La escritura del Brit Chadashah fue de Lucas capítulo 6 versos 12 al 16 y Hechos capítulo 7 del verso 9 al 16.
Our Aliyah readings today, for our Torah reading, we're going to read Genesis 44, 18 through 20. First I'll have Bill read in Hebrew and then in English, and then we'll have the Spanish reading. Bill, if you would please.
ויגש אליו יהודה ויאמר בי אדוני ידבר נא לבדך דבר באזני אדוני ואל יחר אפך בעבדך כי חמוך כפרעה. אדוני שאל את נבדיו לאמור היש לכם אב או אח? ונאמר אל אדוני, יש לנו אב זקן וילד זקונים קטן, ואחיו מת. ויוותר הוא לבדו לאמו ואביו אחבו.
Amen. And now in English from the Tree of Life version, Genesis 44, 18 through 20.
Then Judah approached him and said, I beg your pardon, my lord. Please let your servant say a word in my lord's ears, and don't be angry with your servant, since you are like Pharaoh. My lord asked his servant, saying, Do you have a father or a brother? So he said to my lord, We have a father who is old. A child born to him of his old age is young. Now his brother is dead, so he is the only one of his mother's children left, and his father loves him.
Now in Spanish.
Génesis 44 del 18 al 20 de la Reina Valera contemporánea del 2011. Entonces Judá se acercó a José y le dijo, Ay, Señor mío, ruego mi Señor permitir que este siervo suyo le diga unas palabras al oído. No se enoje mi Señor con este siervo suyo. Es como si yo hablara con el faraón. Mi Señor preguntó a estos sus siervos, ¿tienen ustedes padre o algún hermano? Y nosotros respondimos a mi Señor, tenemos un padre, ya anciano, y un hermano joven y todavía pequeño, que él tuvo en su vejez. Un hermano suyo murió, y de los hijos de su madre solo él quedó. Su padre lo ama.
Amen. Let us all rise. Corey, if you would please come over. Get your legs under it. Get your legs under it. V'zor haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe.
And this is the Torah that Moses placed before the children of Israel at the command of the Lord through Moses' hand.
Y esta es la Torá que Moisés colocó ante los hijos de Israel, como lo ordenó al Señor por mano de Moisés.
Amen. Next, we have our Haftarah reading, Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 21 through 22. This is from the Tree of Life version. Check, make sure your mic's on. Okay, yeah.
Then say to them, thus says Adonai Elohim, behold, I'll take Bnei Israel from among the nations where they have gone. I'll gather them from every side and bring them into their own land. I'll make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Israel, and one king will be king to them all. They will no longer be two nations and never again be divided into two kingdoms.
Amén. Now in Spanish.
Ezequiel 37 del 21 al 22. Y entonces les dirás que yo, su Señor y Dios, he dicho, fíjense bien, voy a sacar a los hijos de Israel de las naciones a las que fueron llevados, voy a recogerlos de todas partes y los traeré a su tierra. Allí, en su tierra, y en los montes de Israel, haré de ellos una nación, y tendrán un solo rey, y nunca más serán dos naciones, ni volverán a dividirse en dos reinos.
Amen. They're doing a good job of keeping up on those slides back there in Spanish too. Amen. Next, our Brit Chadashah reading. Lisa's going to read for us from Acts chapter 7, verses 11 through 14.
Famine and great suffering came over all Egypt and Canaan, and our fathers could find no food. But when Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt, he sent his fathers there the first time. On the second visit, Joseph made himself known to his brothers, and his family became known to Pharaoh. So Joseph sent and called for Jacob and all his relatives, 75 persons.
Amen. Thank you, Lisa.
And Robert, I'm claiming total healing from my hip.
Amen. Hallelujah. That is good that you boldly proclaim that. Hallelujah. We are in agreement with you. Amen. Amen. We'll have to lay hands on you before service is over, before you leave here today. So in Spanish, Acts chapter 7, verses 11 through 14.
Hechos capítulo 7 del 11 al 14. En ese tiempo se desató una hambruna en toda la tierra de Egipto y de Canaán, que trajo un gran sufrimiento, y nuestros padres tampoco tenían que comer. Pero cuando Jacob supo que en Egipto había trigo, mandó por primera vez a nuestros padres a comprarlo. La segunda vez, José les reveló a sus hermanos quién era él, y el faraón llegó a saber de dónde provenía José. Luego José mandó que llevaran a Egipto a su padre Jacob y a toda su familia, que eran 75 personas.
Amen. So this Torah portion, just let me tie this in together for you real fast. In Genesis, Judah pleads for Benjamin. He's pleading for Benjamin to be released. Remember, they all came down in last week's portion. They asked for food, and Joseph's like, yeah, Joseph knew who they were, but he didn't reveal himself. He's like, okay, yeah, but let me keep the young one here, and you all go back to your father. They're like, oh, no, we can't do that. We've already lost one brother. We don't want to lose another. But they ultimately did it. And now they are pleading. They are pleading for Benjamin. And Joseph reveals himself to them. That's an amazing part of this Torah portion. Jacob brings his entire family to Egypt, and they settle in Goshen. And then it talks about the famine in Egypt. In our Haftarah, it talks about bringing the people back. There's going to be one kingdom. There's going to be one king. Yeshua HaMashiach will be the king over all of Israel. Remember, they had divided at this point in time, right? Well, that's exactly what took place in Genesis. Joseph had been divided from them for a long time. But the whole family was brought back together. And then in the Brit Chadashah, it just basically retells that story. That's a great chapter, Acts chapter 7. That's the stoning of Stephen right there in that chapter. And according to some interpretations, that it just depends. Maybe some of you have never been taught this before. If not, you need to look into it because it's rather interesting. According to some interpretations, that was the end of the 70th week of Daniel. Some interpretations say that the clock, it didn't stop at the end of the 69th. It continued on, and halfway through the middle, Yeshua was crucified, and at the end, when Stephen was stoned, that's when they all scattered. Look up that interpretation if you've never heard that before. If you've been with me for 13 years, you've heard it a time or two, because I have mentioned that in the past. We have a book about that in the library in here, where Asher Intrater and Rabbi Dan Juster speaks about that possible different interpretation. Look that up. It's very interesting. Okay. Thank you all. Our readers can go ahead and be seated. Ozzy, you stay. Corey, you and Scott, if you'll come back forward. Leighton, if you'll help grab this cover. And I have Ozzy on the screen as well here in just a second. Sing with me. Etz Kayim hi l'mahazikim ba v'tomacheha meushar deracheha darkei noam v'tonativoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
It is a tree of life to those who take hold of it, and those who support it are praiseworthy. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Bring us back, Lord, to you, and we shall come. Renew our days as of old.
Now in Spanish.
Es un árbol de la vida a aquellos que se aferran a ella, y aquellos que la sostienen son dignos de elogios. Sus caminos son caminos placenteros, y todos sus senderos son paz. Tráenos de vuelta a ti, Señor, y vendremos. Renueva nuestros días como antes.
Amen. Bring us back. Thank you. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Ozzy. Just take that mic with you if you want to. Amen. Thank you, Leighton, and all of our readers today that helped also. You know, I stumbled, before we bless our children, Terry and I, if you'll go ahead and get ready for that, but I stumbled a little bit in that blessing that we just said there at the end, because I was thinking of what Lisa said and what she declared there, and I had no clue she was going through anything, but yet I asked her to come up here and read this morning. And I think that was the Lord saying, you know, Lisa, are you going to stand up? Your hip's hurting. How many of you know your hip's hurting? You don't necessarily want to stand up here and read, right? Are you going to stand up? You going to declare my word? You going to receive this morning or not? And she did. And I believe when I stuttered in that blessing right there, I believe the Holy Spirit told me that you got it, because you stood up and you proclaimed that you received it publicly. Amen? Now, Satan will try to punch you in that hip and try to get you to say, I don't have my healing. It's still there. You just bind and rebuke him in the name of Yeshua. Amen? So that's what Satan tries to do. He likes to fish, and we're the fish. He'll throw the bait out there. He sees if we take it. And if we bite, he's got us. You see that? He does that. He throws bait out there to see if we'll take the bait. Amen? Children, go ahead and gather in the back if you would, please. Gather under the chuppah. All children, go ahead. Gather in the back. We're going to bless you and send you back to Shabbat school. Your teacher, Natalie, today is going to faithfully teach you, and Ozzy will have the Spanish to follow this, okay? Stretch forth your hands. All adults, stand, stretch forth your hands. Let's speak Proverbs 22:6 over our children. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now in Spanish.
Enseña al niño a seguir fielmente su camino, y aunque llegue anciano, no se apartará de él.
Father, we ask that you just bless our children, Lord. Provide for them every day of their life, Father. May they grow up to seek your calling and seek your face and praise you every day of their life, Lord. May they draw more people unto you and to your kingdom, Father. May they be a bright and shining light in this world. Lord, we ask that you bless their teacher now. Be with them, Lord, as they learn your word. In Yeshua's name we pray, and we all say together, Amen, amen. Children, you are dismissed. You can go back to the classroom. Go ahead and grab your Bible if you would. Grab your Bible, grab a pen, grab a paper. Be ready to take notes. This is going to be a powerful teaching, I do believe, today. Go ahead if you want to mark your Bible. We're going to go to Jeremiah, we're going to go to Psalms 1 actually, and Matthew 13. So Jeremiah 17, Psalms 1, and Matthew 13. Go ahead and get your Bible ready for that. We're going to have, as usual, if you don't have your Bible, we're going to have everything on the screen for you. We're going to do something a little bit different today. This makes life easier on me, especially dealing with multiple translations. We're going to have the Bible app. How many of you know we've used the Bible app before, right? Amen? Well, our Bible app now includes our Spanish translation, parallel side by side. It saves me time having to build all these PowerPoint slides when we could just, boom, throw the app up there. And then the Lord can change at the last moment, and we've got the app. I don't have to worry about, did I build it in the slide or not? Amen? But I tell you though, I've had fun putting these slides together with a foreign language and trying to learn that, especially when I'm splitting a verse and I'm stopping halfway through or I'm starting halfway through. I have been picking up a little bit here and there. It's been good. It's been good. Okay, the title of today's sermon is Joseph's Deeply Rooted Faith. Joseph's, how do you like that thumbnail? I used one of Jeff's favorite apps to make that. Jeff, you know what it is? ChatGPT, yes. It blew my mind. I told ChatGPT exactly what I wanted. I mean, I went into detail, and it took them one try. And I thought, wow, you're good. Amen? In Torah Portion, VaYigash, this week's Torah Portion, VaYigash, we continue reading the story of Joseph. I say continue. We've been focused here at the Hanukkah, right? But we've still been going through the Torah portions. Week after week, you have still been privately reading them at home week after week, right? So we are continuing with the story of Joseph. Joseph, or Joseph's life, was not without problems. Can I get an amen? I mean, you guys need to read Joseph's story. If you think your life is bad, read Joseph, right? Today, we're going to look at what was behind or underneath Joseph's faith and obedience. In other words, what was behind Joseph being able to endure all this? What was behind Joseph being able to make it? How many of you read that story and you think, there's no way. There's no way I could have done that. Well, Joseph didn't have any supernatural abilities or powers that we cannot tap into ourselves. He was tapping into something, and we can also tap into that. You follow me? You hear me? Did you know that Joseph is listed among the heroes of faith in a particular chapter in the Bible? What is it? Hebrews 11. You guys should know that chapter. You should read that chapter. You should follow those men and those stories. There's a Bible verse, I believe, somewhere that I'm reading here. Yeah. In Hebrews 6, it says, imitate those who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Joseph, we should imitate him. Look at this on the screen. Joseph's faith and obedience to Adonai enabled him to have victory in the hardest moments of his life. Let that sink in. Just look at that. Faith and obedience. Takes both, right? Because faith is walking in the blessing. Okay, let me back up. Faith is believing in the blessing. Obedience is walking in it. Faith is believing it. Obedience is walking in it. You got to have both. Does that make sense? You can believe in the blessing all you want, but if you're walking in disobedience, you're canceling it out. It's like you're filling up your car with half a tank of gasoline and half a tank of water. Not going to work, right? Amen? You know, I'll tell you a story. Yeshua oftentimes told stories and parables, so I'm just following my rabbi's example. One time, I used to drive a school bus. My whole family drove a school bus. I pulled up to the pumps, to get diesel. I was in a hurry. I was rushed. How many of you have been there, done that? Right? The pumps, had two things there, two choices. Diesel, kerosene. Oh yeah. You know where I'm going. I got the wrong one. Yeah, and I did not know it until the tank was, and this was a school bus tank, huge. I don't know how many gallons. I wasn't a mechanic, I just drove them. But I filled this bus full of kerosene. Boy, I got scared afterward. I noticed after I got done, I'm like, this hose is short, because kerosene, you just fill up the containers. You're not stretching them to fill up a vehicle. Anyways, I didn't freak out. I didn't have fear. I called a few people and asked them their opinion, and here's what I did. You know, I could have spent lots of money for a mechanic to drain that thing and so forth. I drove it. I drove it on my route. And before I got done driving, the valves were chattering on that thing, because kerosene cleans all that. It just cleans your engine like clean and pure. And it's like there's no oil lubrication for your engine anymore. The valves were chattering. But guess what? I got back to the store. I started diluting it with the good stuff, with the diesel. I drove it again, come back to the store, more diesel. Drove it again, come back, more diesel. And I kept doing that. And I finally was able to get enough of the good back in to dilute the bad. Do you see me? You hear what I'm saying? You cannot dilute your blessing, right? Look at this verse on the scripture. You might say, how do I get faith, Rabbi? I really want it. You got to be good hearers. You got to listen. How many of you are not good at that? Be honest. I know there's a few of you should have your hand raised right now. We all at times are not good at listening, right? Amen? At times. Faith cometh by hearing, hearing not just any old thing, but hearing the Word of God. Also hearing testimonies from people, healing, miracles, deliverance, restoration, that builds your faith, right? Sometimes if you're out in the world, you don't have the Word of God with you, you still need to hear it. So what should you do? Speak it. Open your mouth. Declare the Word of God. Speak it out loud. What's that say in Spanish?
Así que la fe proviene del oír y el oír proviene de la palabra de Dios.
Faith comes by hearing. Joseph was able to endure hard times. Why? Because he was deeply rooted in faith. Look at this image on the screen. Do you think that tree's going anywhere? No. No. The top could be blown off of it. It could lose some branches, right? But I don't think it's going to be toppled by the roots. It's going to stay strong. How does something, let me just, Yeshua gave lots of agricultural parables. How does something get deeply rooted like that? Do you know? Let me give you a little bit of lesson about grass. You guys know I'm big with lawns and grass, right? Did you know that the root of your grass is only as long as the top of the blade? If the top blade is 3 inches, the root's 3 inches. If you mow your lawn at 1 inch, there's a 1-inch root. Did you know that? That's why when you mow it at 1 inch, it can survive, but you're going to have to do a lot of watering. But you know how those got that deep? When I planted and redid my whole lawn last year, I first started watering every day real shallow. Just water a little bit, just enough for shallow. That causes the roots to get started and grow shallow in the ground. But after a 2-week period, I had to start watering deep. Why did I have to start watering deep? Roots chase the water. If you just shallowly water, you're not going to have a deep root system. It's going to stay. What do trees do? Any of you have trees in your yard and the roots come up to the top of the ground? What are they doing? You might have had a drought, a dry spell. The roots are seeking water. You're just getting a little bit of rain and it's watering the ground that deep. And those roots are deep into the ground. They're not getting anything. They're having to get the water. Are you following me? So you need to deeply water your soul, your spirit. You need to deeply dive into the Word to be deeply rooted like Joseph. Are you hearing me? You can't be deeply rooted in the Word by just coming to service once a week for 2.5 hours, cracking your Bible open, closing it at the end of service, throwing it aside, say, I'll see you next week. Do you hear me? You can't be deeply rooted that way. And you might say, okay, Rabbi, I spend time in the Word every week, or every day, Every day I'm watering my spirit. I'm watering my soul every day. So why do I need to come to synagogue? Because this is a deep watering. 2.5 hours soaking in the Word of God and in the presence of God. Do you hear me? How many of you have time 2.5 hours per day to deeply soak? That's why you need to come here on Shabbat, because that's what the Sabbath is. It's a 24-hour. Forget about 2.5 hours. It's supposed to be a 24-hour deeply soaking. Started last night, here this morning, this afternoon, tonight. Deeply soak. Because do you want roots like that? You got to water deep. Water deep. Joseph was able to endure because he had deep rooted faith. This also enabled Joseph to walk again in the blessing. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment. While being a slave and in prison. Now you think your life is hard. Have you ever been a slave or have you ever been in prison? Huh? Like Joseph, we must make sure our roots are deep. Here's another parable for you. Some of us, you're getting that deep watering of your roots, but just like the grass, when you cut it short, you're cutting yourself short because of some of the things you do and you say in your life. Some of the things you're allowing into your life that again cancel out and dilute the blessing. Are you following me? You're cutting yourself off. There's another saying you're cutting yourself short. Let yourself be deeply rooted. Look at this Bible verse. In Ephesians 3:17, the last half of the verse, Paul mentions the community in Ephesus. And he says of them, they were rooted and grounded in love. Now I'm talking about rooted and grounded in faith and in the Word of God. But guess what? God is love. And you can't have faith without love. So it still all ties in. My point is, Paul said that the community in Ephesus was deeply rooted and grounded. Amen? What's it say in Spanish?
Efesios 3:17. Arraigados y cimentados en amor.
Be deeply rooted. But there was something else that Joseph had. Oh, it's more than just study. It's more than just prayer. There was something else that caused Joseph to be deeply rooted. And Pharaoh caught it. Pharaoh saw it. He's seen this in Joseph. Look at what Pharaoh said in Genesis 41, verses 38, the second half of the verse. Pharaoh said, "Can we find such a one as this? A man in whom is the Spirit of God."
Génesis 41:38. ¿Podremos encontrar a otro hombre como este en quien esté el Espíritu de Dios?
Now, can that be said of you as well? When you were out in public, school, work, the store, would you think if people saw you, what you were saying, doing, how you were acting, would they say, "Wow, now there goes a person with the Spirit of God"? Or would they look at you and say, "There goes a person with the spirit of the devil"? Or "There goes a person I need to witness to. They don't know God." Or would they say, "There goes a person that I want them to pray for me. There goes a person that I see something different in them." Right? Pharaoh saw that in Joseph. If you've never heard Marzi's testimony, Marzi was here back in June 21st, I think, 2025. You need to hear Marzi's testimony. It's like a modern day Joseph, thrown in an Iranian prison, dark, wet, nasty, bugs, rodents everywhere, no sunlight. They would throw food in there like throwing in the dogs. But yet, she stayed strong. She witnessed to people. She shared the love of God. They tried to tell her, "The only reason why you're in here is because you're a believer. Give that up and you can walk out." She refused. And eventually God made a way for her to get out. She had a life sentence. She was not supposed to get out, but she did. Joseph's prophetic dreams made his brothers angry. You know, sometimes, I've experienced this as well. Sometimes people get jealous of what you have. Pharaoh didn't get jealous of what Joseph had. Pharaoh said, "This man can help me. He can help my nation, my people." The brothers got jealous. The brothers got upset. And it's because the brothers didn't know. Oftentimes people judge you for what they don't even know about you. They automatically, because you keep Sabbath, they just label you as some legalistic, right? And his brothers were labeling him. This started a hard season in Joseph's life. Joseph had to dig deep. What did I talk about a while back? I had a sermon about redigging the wells. Remember that? Grab that door if you would, please. He said, or in that sermon I talked about how we have to redig the wells. To dig a well, you got to dig deep, right? Joseph had to grow stronger. In hard seasons, are we to let it tear us down, or are we to grow stronger? Talk to me. Grow stronger. Joseph had to rely on the Holy Spirit. Joseph had to root himself in the ways of Adonai. So if you have your Bible, grab it now. Go ahead. They'll show you for a split second. Show them what we're reading first before you go to the... Nope. Hold on, let me have the clicker for a second. Click back on the slides for a second. Okay, I know what happened. Just go ahead, ignore that. Go ahead and go to the... There we go. We're going to read Jeremiah 17, 7 through 8. We're going to read it from the New King James. I'm going to read it all in English, and then we will have it in the Spanish. Jeremiah 17, 7. Blessed is the man. So this man that we're talking about here is walking in the blessing, right? You follow me? The blessing of Abraham. If you want to know what that is, go to Deuteronomy 28 and look that up. Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14, and you'll see the blessing. Blessed is the man who what? Trust. But there's another word that can go there for trust. That word is faith. Blessed is the man who puts his faith in Adonai, in the Lord. And whose hope, there again, you could put confidence, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ozzy can correct me on this, I think that's what the Spanish is saying there.
Yeah, confía means confide.
Confide. Blessed is the man who confide, or who has confidence, who puts his hope in Adonai. For he shall be like a what? Verse 8. Like a tree planted by the waters. What does roots do? They chase after the water. You ever put a tree too close to a septic tank? That's not good. The roots will chase after the septic tank or the septic tank line. But if you put a tree by a river or a creek, it's going to tap into that. And the root system is going to be strong. This man, think of Joseph. Think of how you need to be. It's going to be like a tree planted by the waters, which spreads out its roots by the river and will not fear when heat comes. Why will he not fear? Yeah, he's deeply rooted. He's watering himself. He's got that. He's tapped into the source. There's no need. But its leaves will be green. What happens to grass if you don't water it, and if you've cut it too short and you've killed its root system back, what's it do? Turns brown. But if you water it, it's going to turn green and it's going to grow longer roots. And will not be anxious or will not be afraid, will not be fearful in the year of drought, nor will cease from yielding fruit. It takes a deep root system to yield and produce fruit. Fruit of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Where do we get that from? The fruit of the Spirit? Galatians, right? Amen? So let's see what that says in Spanish.
Jeremías 17, versos 7 al 8.
Scroll back up. Okay, there you go.
Pero bendito el hombre que confía en mí, que soy el Señor, y que en mí pone su confianza. Ese hombre es como un árbol plantado junto a los arroyos, echa sus raíces junto a las corrientes, y no se da cuenta de cuándo llega el calor. Sus hojas siempre están verdes, y en los años de sequía no se marchita ni deja de dar fruto.
You have to be deeply rooted. What season of the year are we in? What season did we just start? Winter, right? Not my favorite time of year. Me and Leona's had this discussion multiple times. Not my favorite time of the year. The winter season, though it can be harsh, did you know it's an important time for the roots of trees? Did you know that? The surface air temperature, though it can get cold, thank God it's not been recently. It can get cold, but underneath, the ground is warm. And the root system is actually growing in many trees and plants. During the hard winter times, the trees do what? Follow me, Landon. The trees do what? They dig deeper. They've got to rely on that deep root system. Again, I go back to my experience in planting grass. I mean, you could tie agriculture into the Scriptures. Yeshua did it all the time. I had to make sure in the fall of the year, and I had to sow this grass at a proper time, 30 days before the first frost. If I waited too late, what would happen? The roots would not be deep enough and established enough, and it would die. You hear me? This is why God says, you have a young believer, don't just take a young believer and throw them out there, jail ministry, here you go. Or deliverance ministry, go at it. No, they got to get deeply rooted first, right? Amen? The same with putting people up here on this stage. You got to get deeply rooted first. Outwardly, the weather is bad during the winter, but inside the trees are growing stronger. The trees are preparing, especially fruit trees, they're preparing for a harvest. Even non-fruit trees, they're preparing to blossom and flower and put forth its leaves, right? And you know that has a purpose too. What do leaves on the trees do? Shade, collect sunlight, but what as far as our health? They purify the air. Oxygen, that's right. It's like your air filter that you have outside. They have a purpose. But this same process of how though things are hard in our life, things are harsh, you might have had a bad year. Did you dig deep? Did you grow stronger? This same process is true for us, the people of God. We're talking about trees here being deeply rooted. What are the people of God called in Romans chapter 11? What's our congregation called? The olive tree. We got to dig deep. We got to get rooted, folks. Are you getting anything out of this? Am I bringing this across good? Think about 2025. Think about your life. Think about everything Satan's throwing at you. You say, I want 2026 to be easier. I want it to be better. Dig deep. Get deeply rooted. We must be careful not to be rooted in worldly things. I have this on a slide. We must be careful not to be rooted in worldly things. Like your job. Your job can come and go. If that's what you're rooted in, you're going to be uprooted if something were to happen with your job. Material possessions, home, cars, that could come and go. Or even things like politics. Don't be so deeply rooted in politics or conspiracy theories, folks. That can come and go. There's going to be wins, there's going to be losses. You know what? This saddens me that a lot of times I hear believers talk more about our president than they do Yeshua. Crickets. Crickets in the house. Nobody's shouting amen on that one. Go ahead. We're here to worship the King today. Nobody else. So you can shout amen. But that's true. I hear more people talk to me about worldly things than about the Word of God. Such things have infiltrated congregations all over this country. We're rooted in the wrong things. That's why we get so upset about things all the time. That's not what I'm rooted in, folks. Believers have rooted themselves more, get this, in individualism. What do I mean by that? Since COVID, people's focus less on community and more on individualism. People's like, I'm pulling away from the world. I'm pulling away from community. I'm pulling away from church. I'm pulling away from synagogue. I don't need all that. I can pull it all up online. I can pray myself. I can read myself. I've got the Holy Spirit. I can build things. I can fix things. I don't need the world. I'm just going to build a house out here in the middle of nowhere. Right? This word is about community, family. The Judaism is about family. The Jewish people are about family, culture, family. The Spanish people are about family and gathering together, right? Community, not individualism. I know it's easy. You want to stay at home, right? I don't know. Let me say this. Maybe some of you don't know this about me. Let me share a testimony. This might help somebody that's listening. I used to love to sleep in. I mean sleep in a long time. I mean get up at about 11 o'clock. I used to like that. I could stay up to 2, 3 in the morning. Sleep till 11. There's still that tendency in me at nighttime to stay up a little bit late and I have to make myself go. But I'm saying all that to say, this is a lot of people's off day. They could choose to sleep in or come worship the Lord. Amen? And I used to be the one that would choose to sleep in. But then I got deeply rooted in the Word. I was working a job Monday through Friday. This was around the time that Chloe was born, a little bit after. This was around, from 2006. From about 2006 to about, 2010. For about 4 years, I worked a job Monday through Friday. On Saturday, I'd get up early, drive 1 hour to synagogue in Knoxville. And then on Sunday, I would get up early and go to a church. And I'd go back that Sunday night. For somebody that wanted to sleep in late, right? Forget about that. 7 days a week, get up, go, go, go. But I did it because I wanted to be deeply rooted. Do you hear me? Sometimes you got to crucify the flesh. Get behind me, Satan. Amen? Joseph's brothers ripped off his coat of many colors. So let's talk about some of Joseph's hardships for a second. Don't let me lose you, okay? Pay close attention. I want you to compare your life to Joseph and say, wow, I've got it made compared to him. If he could get through that, I can get through my situation. They ripped off. Has any of your siblings ever ripped off some of your clothing? Okay, I hear one person say, yeah, but most have not, unless they're just horse playing and playing around. But they threw him into a pit. His siblings threw him into a pit. And then they sold him into Egyptian slavery. Wow. Oh, man. Let me say this. Bermuda grass this time of year goes dormant. It's asleep. I could go out and water it as much as I want, and it doesn't take in any nutrients. If you're asleep on what's being said here, if you're asleep physically, you're not going to get any water. Amen? Amen. Do you hear me? Yes. You're dormant. If you want your roots to grow, you got to wake up, you got to listen. Joseph continued to do the right things. When his coat was ripped off, when he was thrown in the pit, when he was sold into slavery, he continued to do the right things, though all the wrong things was happening to him in life. Do you hear me? Yeah. Are you taking notes? Joseph was growing. His roots were digging deeper into the ways of Adonai. He was preparing himself for a mighty harvest. That's what the roots of trees do. They're preparing themselves. Let's read Psalm. Go back to the Bible app. We're going to read Psalm chapter 1, verses 1 through 3 from the New King James. Psalm 1. Turn in your Bible. Psalm 1, verse 1 reads, "Blessed is the man." There it is again. Does that sound familiar? "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly." Now, I don't know what that says over there in Spanish. Go over there and scroll down a little bit on the Spanish side. If you guys will click, if you'll click this right here, it will scroll for you. Now go back to the English, and all you have to do is scroll. So, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. Another translation for that is wicked. I don't know what it will say there in the Spanish, but nor stands in the path of sinners. Or in other words, follows the path of sinners. But this blessed man, verse 2, his delight, his simcha, his joy is in the Torah, the law, the Word of God. And in his Torah, he meditates, he ponders day and night. You see that word meditates? In the Hebrew, that can also be translated as he speaks it to himself. He talks to himself the Word of God day and night. Wow. Speak out loud. Verse 3. This blessed man who walks in the blessing of Abraham shall be like a tree. Hey, Landon, I've been standing over here for 2-3 minutes now. You've lost me on the screen. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. That word there, rivers in Hebrew, channels. Remember we read that in Jeremiah. That brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither. Why? Because it's deeply rooted. It's tapped into a water system. And whatever, how many of you want to prosper? How many of you? Whatever this man does, he shall prosper. Because he's deeply rooted. He's planted by a stream of water. He's meditating on the Word of God, speaking it and declaring it to himself day and night. He's not following the path of sinners, so he prospers. Wow. What's that say in Spanish?
Salmos 1. Bienaventurado el hombre que no anda en compañía de malvados, ni se detiene a hablar con pecadores, ni se sienta a conversar con blasfemos, que, por el contrario, se deleita en la ley del Señor, y día y noche medita en ella. Ese hombre es como un árbol plantado junto a los arroyos. Llegado el momento da su fruto y sus hojas no se marchitan. En todo lo que hace, prospera.
Amen. Potiphar. You know who Potiphar was? That was Joseph's master. Potiphar's wife tried to get Joseph to commit adultery with her. And what did Joseph do? Yeah, he refused. Potiphar's wife then lied and said Joseph tried to rape her. Why did he run? Why did he refuse? Because he was deeply rooted. Deeply rooted. You might say, Joseph didn't have, listen to me folks, Joseph didn't have one of these. But he had a relationship with the Father. He knew the law, the Torah, before there was one written down. We can have the same, right? You don't have to say, I won't mess up. If I could only keep this word in front of me all day long, I won't mess up. No, you're not going to have it in front of you all day long. It needs to be in here. Do you hear me? Previous root growth, look at this on the screen. Previous root growth had prepared Joseph for this moment. Again, going back to my grass, it had to grow the roots before the frost. You have to grow the roots to make sure you're prepared for hard, cold winter seasons. Joseph, he had to turn inwardly. Your help sometimes, your confidence sometimes, the things you need, it's inwardly. If you're deeply rooted. He had to turn inwardly to that ever-growing root system to endure another harsh winter season while keeping his focus on the future harvest. Joseph's faith was like a mustard seed. Any of you familiar with the mustard seed? There's two qualifications, two things here that I want to talk about with the mustard seed. Number one, most seeds that you see, there's a line down the middle of them. They can split. Mustard seed does not have that. A mustard seed cannot be split, faith and fear. Right? It stays together. But also a mustard seed, one of the smallest seeds on the planet, can grow into a huge, giant tree if you allow it to. Did you know that? Huge. That's why Yeshua says our faith should be like a mustard seed. Not divided and growing strong. And for it to grow strong, what did it have to have? Deep roots. And in order for it to have deep roots, it has to be watered deeply. deeply. Again, you could water something frequently, 5 minutes, just a little bit of water. That's how deep your roots are going to be. But if you water something 45 minutes, that deep of water, that's how deep your roots are going to be. Do you hear me? Are you getting something out of this? We're almost finished. We're going down toward the close. But in Matthew 13, we're going to read this in just a moment. In Matthew 13, Yeshua gives, guess what? An agricultural lesson called the parable. Wow. You know what a parable is? A parable is a story that it's not true in the physical sense, but in there's spiritual meaning behind it. There's many parables that Yeshua told. It wasn't about an actual true person or event, but he was given this story with spiritual meaning and significance to it. You follow me? Yeshua in Matthew 13 gives a parable of the sower sowing seeds. And you wonder why I talk so much about grass seed and so forth. I'm following my rabbi. But this lesson has a deep spiritual meaning for us to apply today. Let's go in your Bibles. Grab your Bible. Let's go back over here, Landon, to Matthew 13. Matthew 13, you see it on the screen there. Verses 20 and 21. Verse 20 says, now you need to go back on your own time and read the whole thing here. I don't have time. The same with these other chapters too, like Jeremiah. It talks about the person who is cursed. You need to go back and read that tonight. Verse 20 says, but he who received the seed on stony places, stony ground. What's stony ground? It's hard. It's rock. Right? This is the one who hears the word, so the word is being compared to seed here. He hears the word and immediately receives it with simcha, with joy. Okay, stop there for just a second. You can throw out grass seed on stony, rough ground. It has a little bit of dirt, and you throw the water to it, you throw the starter fertilizer, you do everything to get it going. And guess what? It's going to grow a little root. And then if you say, okay, great, you got a little root going, I'm going to walk away, it's going to dry up. Even if you continue to water, it's not going to grow very much because it's on stony ground. It can't get a deep root system. Do you hear me? I can water and water and water and water and water you, but if your heart is hard as a rock, you're only going to sprout up about that high and that's it. You're done. But if you've got a soft heart, ready to accept the water, you're going to grow a deep root system and you're going to have a harvest. Verse 21. Yet he has no root, there it is, in himself. Why? Because the ground is too hard for a deep root system. But endures only for a while. For when tribulation or persecution arises. I believe the Spanish might say maybe affliction.
Yes.
Tribulation, persecution, affliction, problems, trials arises. Because of the word, immediately he stumbles. Put yourself in that. Put yourself in that situation. How many times have I preached something to you? You left here, you were feeling great, you were feeling good. Somebody cut you off out here at the stop sign and you lost it. Huh? Deeply rooted. Let's see what the Spanish says. Matthew chapter 13, verse 20.
Mateo 13, verso 20. El que oye la palabra es la semilla sembrada entre las piedras, que en ese momento la recibe con gozo. Pero su gozo dura poco por tener poca raíz. Al venir la aflicción o la persecución por causa de la palabra, se malogra.
Amen. Potiphar We're continuing the story of Joseph. We're almost finished. Potiphar had Joseph moved to prison. So he went from being a slave to prison. Sadly, just this week, I want you to think about Joseph here for a second. Sadly, just this past week, I heard about someone who is distant kin to myself and my wife. Distant kin. This young man had been in trouble many times in his life. And he's been to prison already in his life. He's only about mine and Kim's age. And he's been to prison already once, served his time and got out. Guess what? Got in trouble again. Right back in jail again. Judge said, you're going to go back to prison, and this time you're staying even longer. Joseph was going to be thrown into prison. This young man that's kin to us, he said, I'm not going back. And he took his own life. Think about Joseph. He endured it. And he thrived in prison because he was deeply rooted. Amen? Listen though, you think, before we read that, you think you're going through something hard for the past 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years? Joseph stayed in prison for 13 years. He'd already been enslaved, I don't have it on my notes, for years. The woman with the issue of blood, 12 years. Stay deeply rooted. Everywhere, through all the problems and trials and tribulations, everywhere Joseph went, everything that he touched flourished and prospered. He succeeded in everything. How many of you ever heard of, there's a few stories, but a slave being brought into the house and being given anything, and all the other slaves had to listen to him? That's Joseph. Let me word it this way. That's our God. That's our God. Same in the prison. He gets to the prison, new guy shows up immediately. He's working for the warden now. Oh, he's brown-nosing. That's our God. Look at this now on the screen. Joseph had to rely on the now deep. His root system was deep by this point. Just imagine his train of thought at this point. I bet Joseph was like, this is nothing. If something would come up during the day, this is nothing. Been through this. 13 years been here. Before that, slavery. Brothers treated me horribly. Root system's deep. Amen? What is it? What is it, Terry? Water off a duck's back? Is that it? Is that the right saying? Terry's good with poultry. That's why I asked Terry those questions. Leona too. He had to rely on the deep root system which had grown through harsh seasons. You see my point? You think harsh season, this is horrible. Your roots are growing deeper. If you're watering, if you're not getting hard of heart. While in prison, the subjects of dreams comes back up in Joseph's life. Remember, he had the dreams about his brother and his father, and his brothers didn't like it. Now dreams comes back up. This time it's Pharaoh's dreams. Well, before that it was his inmates' dreams. But this time the root system had prepared him to hear Adonai's interpretation. Remember previously, he's like, Dad, brothers, I have these dreams. I don't know what they are. Don't know what they mean. Now, he's ready, because the root system, he's ready to interpret the dreams. Do you see the difference? So Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams. So guess what? Pharaoh said, I see the Spirit of God in this man. And he was made governor, second in charge of all of Egypt. Mitzrayim. Joseph's faith and patience worked together. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Faith and patience paid off. Because he knew, look at this, patience is more than waiting. It is how we act in faith while waiting. If the children are done, tell them they can come on out. They can come on out if they're done. Did you hear what I said though? Patience is more than just sitting here. Patience is how we act in faith while we're waiting. Joseph's focus was on God's promises, not on the chaos going around him, not the attacks of the enemy. Somebody needs to hear this today. Joseph's focus was on God's promises, not the attacks of the enemy. Joseph celebrated, listen, somebody needs to do this. Joseph celebrated each win while waiting for the ultimate victory. Ooh, that's good. Somebody needs to hear that. I used to play sports. You needed to celebrate every first down. You need to celebrate every base hit. You need to celebrate every shot made, because that's just building you and getting you closer to the victory. Do you see that? Look at this verse on the screen. Hebrews 6:12 from the New King James says, "But imitate those who through faith and patience inherit God's promises." Promises of by His stripes I'm healed. Promises of no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Promise that I'm blessed in the city, blessed in my coming, blessed in my going. Everything my hand touch will flourish and prosper. Faith and patience.
Hebreos 6:12. Sino que sigan el ejemplo de quienes por medio de la fe y la paciencia heredan las promesas.
The literal Greek word, or the literal Greek meaning of patience, is to be the same way all the time, regardless of what happens. That's patience. That's a good definition. Be the same way, keep that same joy, keep that same attitude, keep that same faith, regardless of what's happening. Yeah, perseverance. That is patience. Patience is being deeply rooted. It's rooting ourselves in the promises of God through faith. You know, I've said this over and over again, but the Holy Spirit just reminded me again of this. Some of you need to go home and write down a journal and a log of what God's done for you. Do you hear me? Some of you need to go home and write down every good thing God has done for you and every answered prayer. And then you need to read that and say, look what the Lord has done, look what He's going to do. After each harsh moment, Joseph dug deeper into God's ways. That's patience, folks. Joseph had to stop looking at the short-term winter season and focus on the coming harvest. And we must do the same. Can I get an amen? Ultimately, you know, we talk about being rooted in the Word. Who's the living Word? Yeshua. Ultimately, we are rooted in Yeshua, the living Word, through the power and the authority given to us in the Holy Spirit. We should live a life of higher righteousness. Listen, even with even deeper roots than Joseph. You might say, Rabbi, how can I have deeper roots than Joseph? Look at me, everybody, for a second. We can have deeper roots than Joseph because we've got this. We can have deeper roots than Joseph because the Holy Spirit's been given to us, Acts chapter 2. We can have deeper roots than Joseph because we've got music and radio we can listen to all the time with godly music, television and programs and videos. We can have we can have deeper roots than Joseph because we've got more water. Amen? We've got more plows to plow the hard ground. We can have deeper roots than Joseph. Last verse of the day, then my closing application. Colossians 2 speaks of Yeshua saying we are rooted and built up in Him, established in the faith. We are rooted and built up in Yeshua. You know, it talks about in Romans that He is the branch. Romans 11, Yeshua is the branch, and we're grafted into Him. He's deeply rooted. What's it say in Spanish?
Colosenses 2:7. Arraigados y sobreedificados en Él, confirmados en la fe.
Amen. I'm going to have Tiffany translate that next time. Next week, we're just going to pass the mic to her. I was going to do that when you stepped out. I was going to pass her the mic anyways. So in closing, for many people, 2025's been a year of much shaking. You know, storms, hard winds, shakes trees, right? You know what, Jeff, Terry, you guys traveled with me last year. You know why I love palm trees so much? A palm tree can bend flat over in a storm, in the wind, and when it's over, boop. Yeah? Yeah, they have roots, a tap root that goes deep, straight down like a tree trunk. That's why I love palm trees so much. They can be shaken. Many of us have been shaken in 2025. And that showed the depth of your roots. If you're still standing, you've got a deep root system. You might have lost every leaf and branch and limb on you. But if you're still standing, you've got a deep root system. The winter seasons of our life are a time to think back on the Word of God. Don't think back. Listen to me. Listen to me, folks. Do not, coming up at the end of this year, think back and recall all the bad things that happened to you this year. That's what people like to do. New Year's resolution, here's your New Year's resolution. Read more of this. Let your root system grow deeper. Walk in faith and patience. Walk in the blessings of the Lord. Don't dilute it and mix it with anything else. That's your New Year's resolution. Think back on the Word, not your problems, that you have learned to check your root system. Then you can act in faith on that which you've learned and rely on the root growth you have in His Word. Amen? Amen. Let us pray. Father, we thank You for this Word that You've given us. We thank You, Father, for this sermon, Lord, that can apply to all of our lives. Even if we had a decent year, a good year, there's still room to grow deeper. Father, I pray that for myself. I pray that for every Olive Tree Mishpacha family member we have here. That's my prayer for 2026, that we grow deeper, that we bear fruit, that we bear the fruit of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, that we learn to walk in faith even as we patiently wait on the promises. Thank you, Father. As we close out this year of 2025, give us a spirit of thankfulness. Give us a spirit of speaking and declaring a new, good year of 2026. It's going to be better. It's not going to be worse. We're going to round the curve. There's light at the end of the tunnel in 2026. Miracles await in 2026. In Yeshua's name we pray, we declare it, and we receive it. And we all say together, Amen. Amen. Let's all rise if you would, please. Gather with your family. We're all mishpachah. We're all family here. Yeah, you can have the children come on out if you like. We're going to have the Spanish, though, reading of this in just a moment. Stretch your hands out like you're receiving. And I want to stretch my hands like I'm giving. Receive this blessing. Yavarekaka Adonai Vayishmereka Yair Adonai Penav Elecha Vikuneka Yisa Adonai Penav Elecha Vayasim Lecha Shalom. Now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you His peace.
El Señor te bendiga y te guarde, el Señor haga resplandecer su rostro sobre ti y tenga de ti misericordia, el Señor alce sobre ti su rostro y te dé paz.
Amen and amen. Do you receive it this morning? Hallelujah. At this time, we're going to close out our live stream. Everybody, you may be seated. Don't go anywhere. I've got something special for you coming up. By the way, I keep meaning to say this and I forget. I want to thank you all for the beautiful cards. I want to thank Maryland. Thank you, Maryland, from the great state of Georgia. Thank you for the beautiful Hanukkah card that you've given to our congregation. We will proudly display this on our board in the kitchen. And I also want to thank Brenda as well from down the road here in Englewood, Tennessee. Thank you. We greatly appreciate you and all of your support. God bless you. This is the end of our service today. Don't forget to share this online on all the social media platforms. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov.